For the longest time, the dream of artificial intelligence has been to create something that can truly think like a human. But as we've gotten closer and closer, this really fascinating question has popped up. Are we actually building a true mind, or are we just building a really, really sophisticated mimic? This single question has basically split the entire field of AI, and that's the story we're going to dig into today.
And this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are these incredibly powerful AIs we have now, things like ChatGPT, are they actually understanding what they're saying? Or are they just mechanical parrots, brilliantly stitching together patterns they've seen before without any real grasp of the meaning behind the words? That's the puzzle we're going to try and solve.
So let's really get into what we mean by these two ideas. The mechanical parrot approach is all about imitation. It's built on silicon and math, right? It uses these powerful statistics to predict what should come next and replicate results with scary accuracy. But then you have the biological brain. This thing is the product of millions of years of evolution. It doesn't just mimic, it actually tries to understand context. It's the difference between knowing what word comes next in a sentence and knowing why.
But to really get how we ended up here at this crossroads, we've got to go back, way back. See, the original dream for AI wasn't about math at all. It was completely biological. The first goal was pure biomimicry. Just build an artificial brain by copying the real thing, piece by piece.
And the inspiration, the actual blueprint for this whole thing, came from absolute pioneers. Most importantly, Nobel laureate Santiago Ramón y Cajal. He was the first person to ever meticulously map out the brain's neurons. And when early AI researchers saw his incredible work, they thought, that's it, that's the plan. If we can just build artificial neurons and wire them up the same way, we can create a synthetic mind.
Yeah, but there was one tiny problem. They hit a wall, a massive wall. The sheer, mind-boggling scale of the human brain, with its trillions upon trillions of connections, it was just impossible to replicate with the hardware they had. To be honest, it still is. So that really ambitious dream of making a perfect one-to-one copy, it had to be put on ice.
But here's the cool part. That original dream, it didn't just die. It found a whole new life, and a super important one, in medicine. See, researchers now build these incredibly detailed electronic models of small parts of the brain. This lets them simulate diseases, study horrible conditions like Alzheimer's, and even test new drugs, all in a virtual space without putting any patients at risk. It's an absolutely incredible use of that original idea.
Okay, so copying the hardware was a no-go, so researchers had a new idea. What if we could copy the software instead? And that led them to look at one of the brain's most amazing achievements, vision. I mean, the way our brain handles sight is just a total masterclass in being efficient and, honestly, inventive. Take a look at this number, 576 megapixels. That's the mind-blowing resolution your brain creates for you. It's just staggering, way beyond any digital camera you can buy. But here's the incredible secret. Your eyes are not 576 megapixel cameras, not even close. The real magic isn't the hardware, it's the software running in your head.
Figuring this out was a huge scientific journey, building on the work of folks like Stephen Kuffler, and it all led to a Nobel Prize for David Hubel and Torsten Wiesel. What they discovered was that seeing isn't just one thing. It's a step-by-step assembly line, where your brain builds a complex, beautiful picture out of really simple little pieces.
So how do we really see? It's not like a camera taking a picture, not at all. First, your retina just captures some really basic data, light, color, contrast. That raw data gets sent to your visual cortex, which works like that assembly line, building up the image from simple little lines and edges. But then, and this is the magic part, your brain just invents the rest, filling in all the gaps to create the seamless, high-def world you think you're seeing.
And if we zoom in even closer to the retina itself, it gets even cooler. We've got two kinds of specialized cells doing the work. The M-type cells, they're all about movement. They're super fast, they only see in black and white, and they are obsessed with contrast. Then you have the P-type cells. They handle all the fine details like texture and color, and they see color by detecting 3 pairs of complementary colors. This discovery was a huge breakthrough because it finally explained things like color blindness, which usually happens when there's a problem with one of these specific color channels.
So here's the main takeaway, the thing you absolutely have to remember. Your brain is an inventor. The information coming from your eyes is actually kind of low quality and full of holes. For example, you have a blind spot in each eye where the optic nerve connects, but you never see it. Why? Because your brain just paints it over for you.
It smooths out jagged lines, it guesses missing information, and it builds that amazing high-definition world from surprisingly simple inputs.
And this incredible biological system for seeing, well, it became the perfect blueprint for a new kind of AI. For the very first time, engineers had a proven model they could follow. The goal wasn't to build a whole brain, but to teach a machine one of its most important skills: how to see.
And that's how we got what are called convolutional neural networks, or CNNs for short. Seriously, this architecture is almost a direct copy of what Hubel and Wiesel won their Nobel Prize for discovering. The first layers of the network learn to spot simple things, like lines and edges. The next layers combine those into shapes. And the final layers put those shapes together to recognize something complex, like a car or a face. It's the brain's assembly line, just rebuilt in code.
And the impact of this, it's been absolutely huge. You see CNNs everywhere. They're behind the facial recognition that unlocks your phone, and they're the eyes in self-driving cars. And crucially, they become this priceless tool in medicine, analyzing scans to help doctors spot diseases way earlier and with much better accuracy.
So for years and years, CNNs were the undisputed king of computer vision, and it was all thanks to that biological inspiration. But you know how technology works? It never, ever stands still. And this is where the story takes a really wild turn. Because it turns out, to get better than the brain, AI had to stop trying to be the brain.
So check out this evolution. On one side, you've got our good old CNNs, inspired by biology and amazing at spotting local details like an edge or a texture. But on the other side, we have the new king of the hill, the transformer. Now, these were originally made for processing language, but it turns out they're incredible at understanding the overall context of an image, how pixels far away from each other are related. This is a huge shift away from biology and toward just raw mathematical power.
And if you want a perfect, real-world example, just look at high-end video games. The latest graphics tech from NVIDIA, called DLSS, now uses transformers to generate these unbelievably sharp, realistic images on the fly. This was a job that used to belong exclusively to CNNs, but the new non-biological approach is just flat out better.
So look at the journey we've been on, right? We started out trying to build a brain with hardware, and that didn't work. Then we got somewhere by copying the brain's software. And now we're doing even better by just throwing that biological blueprint out the window. This whole trip leaves us with one final and kind of unsettling question. You know, we began this whole thing by asking if AI is just a mechanical parrot. But what if we've been asking the wrong question all along? What if the human brain isn't some magical, one-of-a-kind blueprint for intelligence, but is actually just a very, very complex biological machine itself, one that's running its own incredibly clever software, perfected by evolution? What if our own intelligence is the ultimate illusion, created not by silicon and math, but by biology and time? Definitely something to think about.